Researchers say that one of the world's biggest oil companies made highly accurate predictions about global warming while publicly dismissing any link between fossil fuels and climate change. The study in the journal Science says ExxonMobil's scientists knew about the risks of fossil fuels starting in the 1970s, but chose not to disclose them. Researchers have called their findings of the company's internal documents a smoking gun. Exxon denies the accusations. Well, for more, let's bring in climate scientist Stefan Rahmstorf here. He works at the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research that published the study about ExxonMobil together with Harvard University. Stefan, good to see you. Tell us a little more about what the study says and what exactly Exxon knew about global warming and didn't reveal.
Well, we examined some internal papers as well as technical journal publications by Exxon scientists since the 1970s, which the internal papers have come to light in 2015 through journalistic investigations. And we analyzed the computer simulations of future warming in response as a result of fossil fuel burning that the Exxon scientists presented there. And we compared these climate projections to observations. And the projections were that there would be a warming by 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade, which is pretty well exactly what happened. And of course, they predicted that before there was any clear observational evidence that there was even global warming.
So you mentioned that the papers came to light in journalistic work. Exactly how did you and your colleagues, though, uncover these details?
Well, these papers are in the public domain, and my colleagues from Harvard are science historians, and they have in the past published about the verbal content of these papers and compared it to what Exxon executives have told the public, which is in sharp contrast to what was in the internal publications. And what we did in the new study is indeed the quantitative comparison of a whole range of different climate projections by Exxon, and we computed skill scores to show how good they are. And it turned out they are often actually better than what independent university scientists have done, or NASA scientist Jim Hansen, who presented these NASA projections to the Senate in the US in 1988.
Interesting. Despite knowing about climate change early on, Exxon, for decades, apparently funded climate change deniers. How much damage do you think that did?
Well, I'm pretty sure that it did a lot of damage in delaying climate policy, not Exxon alone, of course. It was the fossil fuel industry in general that invested hundreds of millions of dollars in basically disinformation campaigns to the public, sowing doubt about climate change. And we have seen some of these memes that Exxon put into the public there appearing in German election campaigns, for example, even recently. And I think it did a lot to give the impression to the public that climate science is debated when we have had a consensus on human-caused climate change in the scientific community for decades now.
These are pretty powerful allegations. Could this study have consequences for Exxon? Will the company be held accountable?
Well, there is a number of court cases against Exxon going on in the United States now. There are cases against other companies also in other places like Europe. And I think that this will become increasingly common and important, the question of who is responsible for the delays that are costing us so dearly. And it will, I think, increasingly be fought out in courts in the coming decades.
Stefan, thank you very much. That was Stefan Rahmstorf, climate scientist at the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research.